Hi friends, it's Unicorn and I'm both excited and panicking today because I wanted to make a video about the last book haul of the year 2021, but I didn't have time to do it until now. We are 3 or 4 days away from the new year, but I'm here today and this is the last book haul of the year. I was surprised how many books I accumulated since my last book haul because I didn't read that much, so naturally I thought I didn't buy that many of books. But when I put all the books together, I actually have 17 books to show you today. So I think it's safe to say that I have majorly failed the challenge of reading 2 books before buying one. So I'm sorry about that, but not really. So without further ado, let's dive into the books. The first book I got here is Why Fish Don't Exist by Lulu Miller. I got this book actually before my last book haul, but I forgot to include it. This is part biography, part memoir. When Lulu Miller was at a very low point of her life, she discovered the scientist called David Starr Jordan. He's a taxonomist who built and rebuilt his fish collection after they got destroyed by natural disaster. And while studying the scientist's life, Lulu Miller's life got transformed as well. This is a very beloved book on BookTube that I was eyeing on for a long time, but to be honest, the reason why I got this copy is because one day I was walking on the street with some friends, or it's better to say acquaintances, because they don't know I love books. However, so we saw a physical bookstore and one of them commented on how it's useless to have physical bookstore around us nowadays because first of all, they think that people don't read. And secondly, they think if people read, they will just read ebooks because ebooks is just much more convenient in their opinion. Well, I love ebooks and I read them all the time, but apparently I also love physical books a lot. So I was low-key mad. So I went in that bookstore and bought the first book that I recognized as a protest. Next, I got A Society of Young Women, Opportunities of Places, Power and Reform in Saudi Arabia, written by Amelie La Renard and translated by Kate Ross. This book I got for the Saudi Arabia month for the From and About Asia reading project. All the information linked down below. This is the book about the rapidly evolving society of Saudi young women, how they're transforming as a social group and forming new social norms, how they're transforming Saudi Arabia from within and creating their own and new urban, professional, and consumerist lifestyle. Next, I have a illustrated memoir collection called My Beijing, 4 Stories of Everyday Wonder by Nie Jun, translated by Edward Gavan. This is a collection of 4 short stories about a kid called Yu Er and who lived in a small neighborhood in Beijing with her grandpa. They're training swimming in the community without a swimming pool for the Special Olympics. They are writing to make pen pals to friends who lived far away from them. They're creating and sending out sweet memories to people all around the corner. I've flipped through this book and the stories are indeed sweet and nostalgic memories of a childhood before technologies. I grew up in Beijing, but I didn't grow up in one of those communities where you play in hutongs. But this book gives me all the vibes of Beijing and I really, really miss it. I haven't been back for like 2 years and I really enjoyed this book. Next, I got Gothic Tales by Elizabeth Gaskell. I got this book because of Victober. This is the group reading of this year and I didn't read it. I just need to find some other times in the future for this classic. Next up, I got Beautiful Country by Qian Julie Wang, which is a book I've already read, loved, and reviewed. I'll link the review down below. Jen came to the US at the age of 7 with her parents, and her parents told her that America is a beautiful country full of hopes and they will have a bright future here. But soon they discover that they need to overcome countless of difficulties living as a undocumented immigrant family. And this is a book that recounts the first few years Qian lived here as an undocumented kid. And this is a powerful memoir and a fascinating read. I know this is a book haul video, but I did already read it and I really, really recommend it. The next book is a tome that I got, The Complete Poems of Anne Sexton by Anne Sexton. I discovered the poetry of Anne Sexton from a novel that I recently read called Hotel Silence. I also reviewed it, linked down below. That book referenced a quote from Anne Sexton's poetry, and it goes as, "I am a watercolor I wash off." I fall in love with this line immediately, and I started to look into her life. I found out she's a beloved poet who's famous for her confessional verse and won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry in 1967. Her life story makes me more interested in her work, so I got this complete poem collection, and also it's more cost efficient if you got the whole thing. And speaking of poetry, I have two smaller poetry collections that I got from Bottom Poetry. They're the publisher who published one of my favorite poetry collection, Depression and Other Magic Tricks by Sabrina Bannon. I follow their Instagram where they post some quotes from the poetries they published from time to time, and I pick up the following two books all because I love the quotes from them. The first is The Crown and Worth Much by Hanif Abdurraqib, and the second one is And Never Not Been Black by Jevon Johnson. I cannot find the quotes that I loved so much that made me buy these collections, but I'm hoping to find more when I'm actually reading these collections. Following, I have Taste My Life Through Food by Stanley Tucci. This is Stanley Tucci's memoir of his stories related to food. He grew up in an Italian-American family where they take food very seriously. This book contains all sorts of stories about food in different stages of his life. He talks about his childhood and the recipes from his parents, his young adult years when he can't really afford food, and also his acting years and the food that he's proud to make for his own family nowadays. I already read this book and it's such a delightful read that makes me appreciate the food culture more, and I really glad that I got this physical copy because there are some recipes in this book I really want to try myself. Next, I have a huge book, or you may call it a coffee table book, but I really want to include it in this haul because I'm obsessed with it, and it is Joan Mitchell. Joan Mitchell was an American abstract painter who has the ability to transfer her vision into magnificent paintings. I went to see the exhibition of Joan Mitchell in the San Francisco MoMA a while ago, and I was shook when I looking at her paintings closely. At the same time, I learned more about her work and how she was so clear-headed about her art and what her art can do. I think this is such an extraordinary achievement. So I started to become obsessed with her work and her life and got this book. Next, I got Cursed Bunny by upside down. Cursed Bunny by Boya Chung, translated by Anton Her. This is a horror and magical realism short story collection by Korean author Boya Chung, and it's a beloved book by the booktube community, but honestly, I have forgot why I got this book, but it still sounds interesting to me. Next, I got Greek Myths by Jim Menzies, illustrated by Katie Ponder. I found out this book because I found out the second book in the series, Norse Myths, so I thought I would just start it with the first one. I always feel kind of sorry for myself because growing up I didn't learn any Western mythologies. Well, I do feel extremely lucky that I grew up with all the Chinese mythologies, so I feel like you win some and you lose some. However, Greek mythology is not part of my childhood, it's not part of our educational system, it's just not something that I know of. Although now I learn bits and pieces from here and there, but it's very hard for me to picture them all together. So I got this book for me. It's actually a kid's book with like large fonts and really lovely illustrations, if I can show you guys. It's very bright and vivid pictures of the Greek heroes and the histories. So I'm hoping that I can learn a broader pictures from this book and maybe started to dig into details from here. The next book is a result of holiday vibes kicking in, and it is Your Guide to Not Getting Murdered in a Quaint English Village, written by Maureen Johnson and illustrated by Jay Cooper. This is a fun picture book of the allusions to the crime novels and the lures of the cozy mysteries that we loved. I feel like it is such a wonderful holiday book to flip through when you have a fireplace and a hot chocolate in hand and cats around you. I don't have a fireplace, but I do have cats, so I got this book for myself. After that, I got a peculiar little book called Mrs. Caliban by Rachel Ingalls. I got this book because I was watching one of the reading vlogs of Jane Campbell one day, and she was reading this book and she was talking about the synopsis, and to my understanding, this book is about a woman called Dorothy. She was doing chores at her house and waiting for her husband to come home, but something weird happened in her town. It's like a giant monster somehow appeared in their town and it's related to Dorothy and her life. And I just got this book because I really want to know what happened next. Following, I got The Queen's English, the LGBTQIA+ Dictionary of Lingo and Colloquial Phrases, and it's written by Chloe O. Davis. This is a book all about the terminologies in the LGBTQIA+ community, and I got it because sometimes I got confused of some words that shares similar traits, and also because English is still a second language for me, so I'm not very good at understanding words by looking at them because I don't really know the word stems of a lot of the words. It's still something that I'm working on, and I got this book because it's just continuous learning concept-wise and language-wise, and I really like the colorful tables and things in this book. I just think it's really helpful. Second to last, I got a book about politics, that is The Origins of Political Order from Pre-Human Times to the French Revolution by Francis Fukuyama. This book, the Chinese translation of this book, is one of the best sellers in the Chinese reading community I'm following for at least the past 3 years. So I've always wanted to read it, but I'm also intimidated by it because, to my understanding, if I read a book that is written in English, I should just read the English one instead of the Chinese translation one, but I don't think I'm there yet. However, what triggers me of buying it is one of my friends read the Chinese translated one and he really likes it. So I'm like, okay, I'll jump on board finally. I feel like this book is pretty self-explanatory. It's just about the political orders and how they started. Lastly, I got a Japanese book that got translated into Chinese about British culture in Victorian era. I just found it's very interesting if I put it that way. And it's called 福尔摩斯的餐桌19世纪英国的饮食与生活 by Sakiya Itsuko, and the English translation is The Dinner Table at the Sherlock Holmes, the British food culture and lifestyles at the 19th century. And this book does not have an English translated version yet, so that was my translation. This book uses more than 60 Sherlock Holmes stories as clues, introducing us how people in the Victorian era lived and ate. It's a very well-researched book, including all kind of data, pictures, and tables, converting things from back then to nowadays values, and also it even studied the illustrations in the original Sherlock Holmes books. I am a self-claimed Sherlock Holmes fan, so I feel like this book is a very nice, surprising find. And those are all the books in this video, the last book haul of 2021. I'm really excited now because I finally made this video. I am really looking forward to every single book if I haven't read them in this book haul. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you have got for your holidays, and don't forget to say hi in the comment section down below. Thumbs up to this video if you liked it. I wish you happy reading, happy new year, and stay healthy. I'll see you in my next bookish video. Bye!